And we're live. Welcome.
Hello.
I found you because of your YouTube video message to anti-feminists. Do you want to explain how you came up with doing that? Because I think I saw a video from Feminist Flow, and I think he accused you of saying that that you're doing it to cause infighting amongst anti-feminists, but I'll just allow you to explain where you did it.
So you're asking me about the video basically, and about the idea behind it and so on, right? So I basically saw the other hashtag going around saying how message to feminists and so on, and I was tagged by Kitty Corner. So I thought, well, you know, why not? And I'm aware that there's a little bit of a tribalist element in all of this. You know, it's like never the twain shall meet, never the paths shall cross, and you either pick one side or the other. But I was tagged and I thought, message to feminists, why the hell not? And, you know, I'm going to give the message in my own way. And I did. And then I thought, well, not actually me, it wasn't my idea. But I think someone in the social justice community came up with the idea. I know that Demotivator Opinion and Christy Winters were the first to do videos message to anti-feminists, but they actually I don't know if they outwardly expressed a desire to keep it within the social justice community, but that was kind of their thing. And I thought, well, I think we should sort of bring this to the community at large and to see what the anti-feminists will say about it. In the same way as I was addressing feminists, I was kind of hoping that anti-feminists would address their own, you know, and the good and the bad. And that was the idea behind it.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I did see some anti-feminist participating, but I didn't see a lot.
You can actually, what I've tried to do is, in my video, I've tried to collect all the videos that I've found who have taken part in that, you know, hashtag, so to speak, in the description bar. So, you know, there are quite a few videos up there, and they have differing types of opinions. And it's kind of nice to see. What I haven't done is include the messages to me, or the video responses, which some of which are actually quite ironic, because that's exactly the type of problem that I was trying to point out that anti-feminist content creators actually have. You know, rather than addressing the issues, they like to stand on the sidelines, and they like to carp and complain and target individuals, to abuse, to, you know, I mean, you're familiar with that kind of content as well. I mean, of course, some of it is humorous. I'm not saying that some of it isn't funny, but anyway, so I didn't include those links to the videos that were replies to me personally, unless they were constructive replies. I mean, I say that now because I think Noel Plum did one. I haven't seen it yet, but I think his will be a constructive one, so I'm likely to put that up in the description bar. But ones where I'm going to be, you know, called a cunt or a wanker, and, you know, it just centers around me being cancer and all the rest of it, I'm not going to include those.
Okay, and just to clarify, just to have this on air, you said that you are not a feminist?
No, I'm not a feminist. You can call me a kind of ally of feminists, or you can call me an ally of any cause that I believe is endangered. Anyone that doesn't have full rights can count on me as supporting them.
If so then why are you not a feminist, if I may ask?
Why am I not a feminist?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I could give you any number of answers. I mean, I'm not really ideologically driven. I mean, I have certain ideals that I support and certain things that I consider important, but I find it difficult to pigeonhole myself in the way that you can actually say I'm a feminist and then I represent feminism. You know, I can't say with confidence that I can represent feminism. In fact, I'm not even sure whether, you know, how accurate it is to be able to describe feminism. I mean, a lot of people have problems with this. This is some kind of an ongoing argument, as I'm sure you know, to do with feminism. What is feminism? Is it third wave? Is it the dictionary definition and so on? I mean, I would rather just be an individual, and I would rather help out where I believe on issues that are important or issues that are not being discussed, or where a mistaken position is being taken to try to point out where those mistakes are.
Yeah, and you also believe that there are different branches of feminism. Am I close?
Different branches of feminism. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. That hasn't been said already. I don't know. If you've got something specific, then you can ask me. But I don't know if I could really summarize, you know, the different branches and so on. I'm not an expert on feminism by any means, and then I never have tried to, you know, present myself in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, another reason why I'm not a feminist, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you, because I know you did a message to anti-feminists. Does that mean, and I'm just doing some guesswork here, do you, are you the type of person that wishes that anti-feminists would distinguish the moderates from the radicals? Because I know in your videos, you said that people go after Anita Sarkeesian, and they go after Steve Shives, they go after easy targets. So do you wish that anti-feminists distinguish the radicals from the moderates? Because I think that your video was leaning towards not all feminists are like that.
Well, you know, I never really. I also did a message to feminists video. I don't know if you saw that, but I wasn't actually defending feminists in my anti-feminist video. I was pointing out the state of anti-feminism on YouTube, and I think it's so clear. I mean, you have to be really biased not to see the state of content creating anti-feminist YouTubers, what kind of content that they're creating. It's not good. It's not healthy. You know, it doesn't actually further discussion.
So you agree with Till Deer, because Till Deer, he came out with a video not that long ago that says that the anti-feminist community has turned into like to be all about pawnage and about watch me pawn this total complete idiot. Woo!
I do agree with him on that point. In the honest to God, I think that's so much a matter of fact. I really can't understand it when anti-feminists line up behind, you know, the position to try to defend that fact and try to make out that isn't actually happening. We all know that's happening, you know. And if you take a look around and look for feminist channels on YouTube, I mean, how many feminist channels are there that actually, you know, go for ponage in that style? I mean, there aren't many, and yet practically every single anti-feminist channel or more popular one is doing that all the time, and they don't actually have much positive content. They don't actually advocate any solutions. What they do is they find someone, some, you know, semi-disturbed, usually female, going through college, who has, you know, certain problems and issues of her own, and about 6 subscribers, and then you have this circle jerk of anti-feminist content providers that attack and to create videos about her as being typical of feminism in the mainstream, and they just attack like a pack of dogs. It's honestly, it's just not. There's no even sense of fair play. You know, it doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, yeah, because it reminds me of how Mr. Repsian,
Mm.
he tried to pawn a feminist, but he didn't watch the whole entire video first. Like he just thought typical feminists, all feminists are a monolith. So without even watching the video, he decided to try to pawn it. But in the end of the video, he apologized and he says, "Well, I disagree with you, but I think that you're misguided. I don't think you're a bad person. I just think that you're misguided in your beliefs. And I'm sorry for making this video. And I'm never, this time I'm going to watch the whole entire video first."
I don't know what's going on with that Mr. Repsion guy. I mean, I've kind of heard on the grapevine that he kind of like alters his message because, you know, because of the old views type of thing. And sometimes he just doesn't even care about the subjects that he talks about. And he just sees it as, I don't know, some way of making a bit of money on the side, or I don't know if he's making a living out of it or not. I don't want to judge him too much, but that his heart isn't really in it. And every once in a while, he just, I don't know, he's just putting it on. And I think that's not uncommon at all for anti-feminist content creators. I think the similar thing we see with TJ. I mean, you saw probably his early content, which is slightly different to his content now, although he seems to have somewhat retreated from an anti-feminist position in more recent weeks or months. But I think something similar happens to him, you know, that as the channel starts to growing, you pander to your audience and you start giving them all the radical stuff to get them all mobilized and all, you know, all het up. And then once you get past a certain level of subs, you can actually, if you have any dignity, that is, you can actually talk from the heart and you don't actually have to pander to them anymore. You can, because you're big enough not to actually, well, anyone can fail, let's face it, but you're big enough that you can create content and you can take a hit in subs, or you can lose a few thousand every week because you're not entertaining someone by being outraged about this or about that. When you're not really outraged about anything, you're doing pretty well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I have seen TJ's earlier work. I do feel like it kind of goes in cycles a bit. By what I mean by cycles is that before it was atheist versus Christian, and it's like, watch me pawn this crazy Christian. And it's kind of like, I live in the Bible Belt. Living in the Bible Belts or the Deep South, I never met a Christian who acted that crazy, and they find some of the most crazy, absurd Christians, and they're like, "Yep, typical Christians." It's something that I live in the Deep South where atheists would be a minority, and that is not how a typical Christian acts like. The typical Christian is normal. I mean, there's disagreements. Of course, I disagree that there is a God, and you know, but the typical Christian, they're not like the radicals that you'd see on the Amazing Atheist channel. They would just find the craziest, most outrageous Christian you could think of, and typical Christian, just think. But really, it seems like even living in the South, it seems like Christians only half believe. You know, it's like it's kind of like very few Christians even read the Bible. Even, I mean, Christians they hardly even go to church. If you try to visit most churches, they're pretty much near empty, and only like elderly people go to church. And even then, you know, even then they know that there are different translations of the Bible. And I mean, it's like, it's kind of like there's a difference between how the atheist community portrayed Christians and how Christians are really like. But with the Christian community, it was a little bit more back and forth. But with the anti-feminist community, it's a little bit more one-sided. But I think it's because social justice warriors, I mean, or social justice is being taught in different college campuses, and it's being taught in the media. But still, why not challenge the ideas? You don't have to insult the person. You could just make fun of the idea instead of the person.
Yeah, I mean, I think primarily they're going after the people ahead of the ideas. I mean, the ideas are mentioned, but the idea of ridiculing someone or verbally abusing them, or just in the name of entertainment, I think that's the priority of the anti-feminist content providers on YouTube. And okay, that's the world we live in. It's a kind of celebrity culture. Everyone wants to be funny. Everyone wants to be on TV. Everyone wants to laugh at somebody else. But let's not dress this up as education. Let's not dress this up as if we're learning something from this.
It all depends on how much ideas are getting challenged versus attacking the person, because anybody could call a person a loser. But if there is ideas that are getting challenged, then there would be progress that gets to be made. However, if somebody made a video addressing me, I don't know if they bring up any relevant points. I'll probably listen, but if they just throw ad hominems the whole entire time, I probably won't. It all
Well,
depends on how
yeah.
constructive the criticisms are, but I am open to listen to constructive criticism.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there's nothing wrong with constructive criticism, although you also have to remember or bear in mind that if you go to a lot of the anti-feminist content creating YouTube channels, there is barely a word of dissent. So you don't actually have people's critical thinking being challenged. You actually have their confirmation bias being confirmed.
I don't know. Some of them do target other groups. Like, I have seen vernaculars talk about guns recently. So, I mean, though he does have older videos about guns, but he does seem to target a wide variety of people as opposed to making attacking feminists his career. Because back to how the atheist community was like. Once attacking feminists became the new thing, many it seems like many of the atheist community kind of dropped out. It seems.
Yeah, I think so. What did Vernacular say about guns? He was supporting guns, or he was for more restrictions?
Yes, Vernaculus supports guns, but of course, he has fans that are anti-guns. Vernaculus is against anarchy. He has fans that are for anarchy. He does challenge his fans on their ideas.
Right, yeah. I think I think people can be. I mean, it's good that he challenges if that is the majority of his fan base or something like that. Then it's good that he challenges their views. But I mean, you can be quite selective in challenging your viewers. Um, but I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, and then I do welcome that, but sometimes I really do wish that the anti-feminist content providers would throw down the gauntlet to their viewers a little bit more, you know? And even just to play devil's advocate, because it becomes such an echo chamber. This is why you have on YouTube such anger. Well, people like myself, I get such backlash. The anti-feminists are so convinced that they're right because that's what they hear all the time on YouTube by all the people that they admire, that they don't actually think about the issues. They just think about the message that's being passed down to them, and they think about the talking points. They memorize each talking point. They memorize each time someone has been forced to change their t-shirt or to wear a tie, or if someone lost their job. and they'll reel them off to you one by one, but they don't know any of the counter arguments. They don't know one single counter argument.
Yeah. Anyway, in your video, Message to Anti-Feminists, I noticed that's in the middle of it. I think it's near the middle of it, where you say that, you know, this is the anti-feminist talking point, but I'm actually helping getting laws for homeless men to get into empty, unused houses, or it's kind of like this is the anti-feminist arguments, but how many men have actually been helped, like through donations or charity? And you know, after thinking about it, I never see donate for this men's shelter thingy. You know, where you could donate and give money for a men's
Right.
shelter.
This is
Or
actually part of the left-right argument here, because you're going on the kind of anti-feminist way of thinking, which is not just right-wing. There are left-wingers who are in that camp also, but anti-feminism has a history of being more right of centre than left of centre. And along with that way of thinking, the idea is to do with contributions, to do with funding from people's pockets. I'm actually talking about getting the government to fund these places. I'm talking about people, rich people that have like 30 or 40 properties that are emptied, being forced by government through the creation of laws to make those properties available to people that are on the streets, or people that who are in low income brackets. I think that what I'm trying to say here is there is a it's not really mainstream, but there is mainstream compared to the internet. There is mainstream politics that actually helps cure some of the problems that men experience, but they are too much listening or thinking in that kind of like in that a libertarian in an American sense, in that kind of a right-wing sense. They're too fixed on that side of things to actually understand that there are ways of making the government actually solve these problems.
yeah.
Or they're worried their taxes are going to go up, or whatever else it is that they are concerned with. And actually, those things are in conflict. So, so that men that support these policies that are against what I'm talking about are not helping men.
Yeah, but still, when it comes to Sargon, he asked all of his followers to take a poll, and all of his followers put to the poll, or most of them, including myself, fall under left libertarian.
Well, you know, the political compass, I mean, that is notorious. Like, you, practically everyone falls into that category. It's difficult not to fall into it. It seems to be set up in such a way, and I'm not the only one that's noticed this, but it seems to be set up in such a way that even people that consider themselves slightly right of centre end up as left libertarians. It's quite funny. And one of the reasons, it seems to me, not the only reason, but one of the reasons is there are no questions about gender and race in the political compass.
Well, it asks you if you believe that your race is superior, or if you believe that people should stick to their kind.
No, yeah, no, you're right about that. But how about, do you believe that there is still institutionalized racism in Western society? How about questions like that?
Yeah, but there are people who want to reclaim the left and have the left be, because about is much more social justice than the way the left has been this whole entire time. Social,
So you're cutting out a bit. You're going to have to repeat that. I'm sorry.
um, what was the last thing you heard? What was the last thing you heard so I know where to pick up
We
what's
were,
repeat?
yeah, I mean, I think you took the sort of conversation onto social justice, but I was talking about, we were talking about the political compass and about how everyone seems to end up in the left libertarian.
Yeah, and like I said, the question does ask questions like, do you think people should stick to their kind, or do you think that some races are superior than others? And I would think that that would place you to the right. So they do ask about race.
No, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that there is a far more interesting question between the people that believe that racism still exists in Western society, and elements of institutionalized racism, say in the police force, still exist, and those that don't believe that. And there should be, a difference should be made there. People should understand who they are standing with.
Yeah, but there are people who consider themselves to be in the left, and they've been in the left probably long before you were even born. And they're kind of like feeling that the social justice movements are trying to say that, oh, yeah, like we believe in institutionalized racism, when there are people who are from the left who don't think that exists. Like I think Dave Rubin.
He's not from the left. He's a cultural libertarian.
Well, Dave Rubin says that he's a liberal. He makes videos in.
Yeah, he says he's a classical liberal. Classical liberal is a kind of left or right, a left of right liberal, a kind of most right-wing liberal you can get before you approach conservatism.
Yeah, but he never even voted conservative a single day of his life. He's always voted Democrat.
Yeah, no, but lots of libertarians wouldn't even vote for conservative policies either. Right-wing libertarians wouldn't vote for Republican Party. That's not like a huge issue.
It seems kind of like it. The left, it has a particular meaning, and it's been a certain way for this whole entire time. And it's the idea of institutionalized racism. It just seems very recent. It hasn't been an idea that you hear from the left. At least not when I was growing up. I never heard of institutionalized racism while growing up, and I come from a Democratic family. My family has always voted Democrat. Never heard of institutionalized racism. Seems like a new idea.
I don't know. I think it's quite old. I think. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, right? I mean, you know what it means.
Yes, I mean, I know what it means, but I learned it from the anti-feminist community.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, even though I come from a Democratic left family, I never heard of institutionalized racism. I mean, maybe during the time of segregation, but
What,
not in.
what about during the time of Rodney King?
Excuse me.
What about during the time of Rodney King?
So I don't pay that much attention to history.
You don't know about Rodney King?
Sorry, I never really paid attention to
Oh,
history.
no, it's okay. No, I didn't mean that in an insulting way. I was just asking a question. It was the LA riots because that black guy was beaten up. I don't know if you remember that or if you remember seeing any reports about that. I think it was in the late 80s? He's the guy that was really famous for saying, can't we just all get along? Can you remember that? Or do you know it? Are you familiar with that?
I was born in 1989.
It's all cool. It's part of history anyway. It might be interesting for you to check that out. But people were talking about institutionalized racism back then.
Hmm. Yeah, well, my family never spoken about that.
It's all cool, man.
So, do you you call yourself a social justice warrior? Does that mean that you think that there's a difference between the moderates or the radicals, or is it all the same to you? Or...
Um, well, it's just a YouTube moniker, really. It's it means a few different things at the same time. One of the things is a reference to George Orwell, but precious few people have noticed that. Um, that's the 101. And the SJW is more of a description of my support of social justice. John Rawls' social justice, which was the commonly held definition up until the internet age, when everyone had started calling social justice something else.
So, do you think that there are radicals in your movements that need to be weaved out, or do you think that there are no radicals, or...
Well, I don't know if I really consider being myself as being part of a movement as such. I'm a kind of advocate of social justice, you know, of equality, like I said, if tomorrow I felt as if women had achieved their goals and men were the ones that were being discriminated against, then I would be supporting men's rights. You know, I don't have like an ideological or a religious style, what's the word, devotion, you know, to one particular side or another. And you know, that when I see people, extremists, when I see extremists at university campuses, I don't really see them as part of my cause, because we don't actually believe in the same things.
Yeah.
I mean, they are held up by anti-feminists as an example of social justice, but that's not actually what social justice means.
Yes, so do you believe that there are radicals in the social justice movements that need to be weeded out so that there could be more positive representation? Or is it like, oh, those are not the true social justice warriors, not the true ones? So like,
No, I think there are the radicals in every movement or every ideology, if you want to call it that way. Whether they should be weaved out or not, I don't know. I mean, when I don't consider it a movement to begin with, it's kind of hard to want them to be weaved out. I mean, some of these people don't support the same policies as me, so I don't actually feel like they are my own, if you get what I mean.
so you just view yourself as just, so you go by individualism, or...
Well, you know, this is the funny thing, that in a lot of ways I am quite individualist, personally speaking. But as far as the philosophies are concerned, between individualism and collectivism, I'm much more balanced. I'd say I was more towards the middle, between collectivism and individualism, although I was told by Sargon many a moon ago, some months ago, and in a response video, that you actually have to choose one or the other, which I don't believe is the case. I don't believe it's ever the case in life that you have to choose one thing or the other.
Though you do seem to view anti-feminists in a collective sense, you know, and I'll say this: I have interviewed so many anti-feminist YouTubers. Some of them are like, well, I wouldn't exactly say I'm an anti-feminist. There are certain things about feminists I go against, but I wouldn't call myself an anti-feminist. But then there are others who embrace the title anti-feminist.
Mm.
Some are Democratic, some are Republican, some are centralist,
Mm.
some support Donald Trump. There's this one who support Hillary. There are some, you know, like, I don't know, like five of them that supported neither. You know, it's kind of like when I talk to them, they're so different from each other, like, and, there are some of them have a Christian background. Some of them used to be feminists themselves. Like I've had 2 or 3 anti-feminists that I've interviewed, and 3 of them were like feminists.
Mm.
They left the feminist movements because feminism is something that they don't believe in anymore. And yeah, I mean,
You
for,
know, I've seen that before, and sometimes it's kind of funny for me because I see them, and I imagine that they started off to being kind of quite extreme and supporting a lot of things that they don't support now, and then they go to another extreme. And the funny thing is that whilst I'm kind of like, well, not necessarily sitting in the middle, but I'm thinking, hang on a minute, it's not necessarily right what a radical feminist is saying. And then the next moment, they are going over to the other side and saying something equally unreasonable. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here?
so you think that's all anti-feminists are radical? Is that what you're saying?
No, no, that's the distinction that I was making in the video. I don't think that at all. I think there are a mixture of reasons why people are anti-feminists, but I think that for the most part, it's misplaced reasons. It's not malicious. However, as far as the anti-feminist content providers are concerned, and I'm not talking about all of them. I mean, I wouldn't even want to hazard a guess how many. But let's just say that I think a bit of exploitation and manipulation is going on.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any proof of it, or?
It's hard to prove something like that. I mean, you're just asking me for my opinion, and I can only give it to you.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I mean, I could go about making videos about it, but then I'd become a hypocrite because I'd be making dozens of videos calling out anti-feminists because they were calling out feminists. So I don't mind doing some videos like that, but the moment that my channel becomes consumed with that type of content, then it kind of turns me into a hypocrite because then I'm doing the same thing as they are.
So you don't believe that anti-feminists should challenge a feminist on their ideas? You believe?
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, if we go back to what we were saying before about ponage, if we're going back to the idea of insulting people and mocking them and humiliating them, I don't really agree with that. I mean, to a certain degree, it's okay, and this is an entertainment platform. I'm not unrealistic. But let's not pretend that this is all about ideas, because I think in most cases it's not actually about ideas at all. It's all about views.
Yeah, but I mean, unless you could prove everybody, you can't really say what's going on in somebody's head unless you have a way to demonstrate that.
Well, I'm just giving my opinion. I can't do anything more than that. When you ask me, I can just tell you. It's like if I was to ask you something and then to say, well, I need you to prove that to me, it kind of just closes the conversation down. I don't have any evidence, and you know that I don't have it. I mean, how could I have it? I mean, I would have to have secret conversations or something like that recorded with some guy from YouTube saying, yeah, just tell them a sack of crap, tell them what they want to hear, laugh at some feminists or try to drive her off YouTube or something like that. I mean, I'm never going to have that kind of evidence. I'm not even going to look for it because I don't want to be that cynical about human nature. I don't want to be obsessed with those types of things. I leave that to them,
So what is your opinion on how feminists are in college campuses, or do you think that they are misrepresented by the radicals?
Well, I think there are radicals on college campuses, but I think that there have always been radicals on college campuses. And I think this is something that a lot of the people who are very young now are negating, that with the dawn of social media, everything has been blown up to such a degree that people think that something is a lot more prevalent than it actually is, and they have no idea of the history. That, for example, in the 90s there was a lot of that kind of stuff, and in the 80s as well. So the people that are talking about some kind of, I don't know, doomsday scenario where, you know, our college campuses are being overrun with it, I think it's overblown, to be honest with you. I mean, it does happen. Obviously, it happens because we have recordings of it. But I think it's always happened in the past as well. And I don't think that it's necessarily that unhealthy. Young people do have radical opinions at university, and they tend to leave university, and then they tend to grow out of those opinions. I mean, not all of them, but that's been the tendency up until now. I mean, what are we saying? That people suddenly are going to stay the same just because this is the time where we're living, and this is the time where we've noticed that it's happening, that it's going to stay that way. You know, that's kind of like the Dave Rubin idea of what's going on with the left, right? I think it's a little bit short-sighted.
How do you feel about Christina Hoff Sommers? Is she somebody whose books you would like to support, or do you think Christina Hoff Sommers is misguided, and do you think she needs to be re-educated?
You know, I'm not an expert on her. I know about her involvement, for example, with Gamergate, and actually, as someone who watched Gamergate quite closely, I actually welcomed her involvement, because it was nice to see someone who was a little bit more academic, who could actually put some more solid input into the whole Gamergate thing than a bunch of shitlords, to be honest with you. I mean, Gamergate isn't just full of shitlords, but let's face it, a lot of it was about that. So as far as her views on feminism are concerned, I mean, no, I mean, I'm no expert on that. You'd have to give me some of her views, and I could tell you whether I agree with her or not.
Oh, don't worry about it. I have other questions. How do you feel about Milo Yiannopoulos?
I don't like the guy. I don't like his views. I think that the people that are kind of supporting him are highly misguided, and they are being myopic about his views. I can see why they're making common cause with him at the moment, because we have this kind of like free speech thing going on, and he is a part of that. But on the basis of one single issue, I really don't think that a person with that many unsavory issues on a number of different topics is healthy to be, you know, cozying up with. How do you feel about him?
Well, this is your interview, so I mean, it's all about you.
Okay, you're gonna be like that, are you?
I mean, it would be kind of strange for, you know, an interviewee to ask questions to their interviewer.
Yeah, but you can chime in. It doesn't just have to be all about me. I saw a bit of your chat with Aldous. You were chiming in much more. Aha, busted. Well, okay, well, as far as Milo is concerned, like, if you're going to ask me what types of issues that he expresses that I disagree with, for example, I think his position on trans people is kind of unacceptable. I think I mean, I don't know if I could call it transphobic or not, but I think it's not far from that. I think his position on homosexuality, the fact that he is homosexual himself, does not ensure him from criticism for going down that route, for being kind of like very critical of gays and homosexuals and lesbians. I think that what we have with Milo is part of celebrity culture. that people get taken in by charisma, by stardom, and they tend to follow along with somebody, whether they would normally not support the same views as that person, but they will give them a pass if that person has a certain way about him and there is an issue that they agree with that person on, you know. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Well, there are people in the anti-feminist community that would agree with you about Milo. Like I said, the anti-feminist community is not a monolith, and there are people who disagree with Milo here and there. I've seen vernaculars be against Milo's idea of the alt rights.
Right. Could you sort of briefly sort of like say what that is, so I have an idea?
Milo Yiannopoulos supports the alt rights and he thinks it's awesome. Vernaculus is Vernaculus is critical of that, basically.
Right. Right. I mean, you also have. I mean, there are so many issues that if you were to count them out one by one, what Milo supports. I mean, as far as, you know, atheism, I mean, he's very critical of atheists, and it's actually quite amusing when you see all these atheists who are backing Milo up so much, and in actual fact, on their most important issue, up until yesterday, because today feminism seems to be the most important thing to talk about, but up until yesterday, they would have not taken kindly to what Milo says about atheism.
Yeah, going back to Christians versus atheists on YouTube, and how every Christian need to be pawned, and let's make fun of all the Christians, they're so dumb and stupid, and now you have atheists backing up Milo. I think it's because Milo knows how to be charming, charismatic. He
Yes.
knows how to win over a crowd. He knows how to draw a dashing smile, and he has that. He knows how to be very charming and charismatic, and that's why I found it really, really ironic that he made an article, and I would like you to speak. It would take me a while to find it anyway, if I still have it.
You know, go ahead. I mean, he has said and written so many really stupid things that you don't even know where to start with the guy. You know, it's like I've actually done. Well, I've done one video about Milo, and I've done one video that actually talks about him to do with the Gamergate SPJ thing, and another one was to do with his views on paedophilia.
Yeah, I think he was on the Amazing Atheist Drunken Passage channel one night, saying that he supports pedophilia, I think, amongst gay people.
Yeah, they were playing my video at the time. That's what they were discussing, but they only cut out part of that video. Well, I should say my video. Part of my video was included. It was also Kevin Logan. But it's a shame that they didn't play more to him, because I would have loved to have seen his reaction. And actually, it was quite interesting for me to watch Milo's reaction to seeing part of the things that I was criticizing him on.
Yeah, I finally found the article, and I just thought it was interesting, because I mean, this is my personal opinion, and people on chats are free to disagree with me, but I felt like he was projecting. And not only did I feel like he was projecting, but it's kind of, because it seems like what he's describing seems to match himself perfectly. Not only that, but Milo seems so different back then. He almost seems like a totally and completely different person. I mean, like, I don't think his fans would recognize the person he was back then. So I would share the article. Can you see the article?
Hold on a moment. Yes, I can.
The internet is turning us all into sociopaths by Milo Yiannopoulos.
Right. Is this the one where he slates gamers as being basement dwellers and all the rest of it?
Uh, I don't recall seeing
Yeah. Because
that.
it was so ironic the way that he was welcomed into Gamergate when only months before then that he had called a gamer so many names that people in Gamergate get really upset about, you know, when you attack them in that way. And but he was just uncritically welcomed into the movement. I mean, there were some people in Gamergate that didn't like him and they still don't like him, but most of them just welcomed him in, and I just, it's just unbelievable. But you know, part of that is what you were saying, to do with, you know, charisma, to do with having someone supposedly on your side and all the rest of it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like this. To me, this sounds kind of like
Yeah.
how
It
Milo
does.
is,
It sounds
like
like him, doesn't it?
just like him, like glibness and superficial charm, manipulation of
Oh my
others.
God, that is so good. That's great that you found that and that you said that that's a projection. It is so much like him.
A grandiose sense of self, pathologically lying, a lack of remorse, shame or guilt, shallow emotions, an incapacity to feel genuine love, a need for stimulation. That doesn't sound like him. I haven't seen him making a verbal outburst, but poor behavior controls. These are just some of the things social media are encouraging in all of us. They're
Yes.
also pretty comprehensive diagnostic checklist for sociopathy. In fact, that's where I got the list, and yet he seems to be describing himself perfectly.
My God, that is excellent. Excellent find. Well done.
Actually, I found it on Vernacular Twitter, and I liked it and retweeted it out. So I found
Mm.
it because of Vernacular. He's the one who did the letter work, and I don't know how he managed to find it because I wouldn't think of checking out what a person said years ago. But here's where this would annoy many of his followers. Um, I'll read the bottom of the article. So perhaps what is needed now is a bolder form of censure. After all, because the internet is not a universal human right. The internet is not a universal
Mm.
human right. I mean, what he's supporting then is not what he's supporting now. It totally contradicts what he's supporting now. If
Yeah.
people cannot be trusted to treat one another with respect and consideration, perhaps they deserve to have their online freedom curtailed. For sure, the best we could ever hope for is a smattering of unpopular show trials. But if the internet, ubiquitous as it is now, proves too dangerous in the hands of psychologically fragile, perhaps access to it ought to be restricted. He's reporting restricted access to the internet. We ban drunks from driving because they are a danger to others. Isn't it the time we did the same to trolls? He don't
Oh my
doesn't
God.
he doesn't think trolls should be allowed to have any access to the internet. He wants people to be restricted from using the internet.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm not at all surprised because I know, uh, you know, when you actually have mixed with people like that, when you've actually been to university with people like that, I say been to university, but he dropped out. But you kind of, you know, a certain mindset. You can recognize a certain type of person, and I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. I wouldn't. And these people who trust him and think he's a great guy or something like that, I mean, God, they don't know. They don't. Oh, they just don't want to know. I don't understand. I don't know.
Well, Milo knows how to be charming, witty, and charismatic. He has the personality traits that many people are attracted to. It's easier to be attracted to a person who's witty and charismatic over a person who's
Mm.
angry and bitter about something.
It also feeds off each other. When you're actually considered that way, it's much more easy to behave in that way. But the test would come if everyone turned against Milo tomorrow. I wonder whether he'd be quite as charming. I suspect
Well,
not.
everything that feminist seems to be doing to Milo just makes him more popular, kind of like how well, these aren't feminists per se, they were actually Black Lives Matter, but how they stormed the stage, how they started blowing whistles, how they were up in Milo's face, and how they basically wasted everybody else's money who paid to see Milo. Things like this just makes Milo more popular because for every action, it's an equal but opposite reaction. The more and more hatred Milo gains from Black Lives Matter and feminism or radical feminism and the social justice warriors or the radical ones, the more popular he gets because, again, every action has an equal but opposite reaction. The very next college campus he went to, they sat him on a throne and they carried the guy on stage. It would have been a lot more successful had they ignored him.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose so. No, I mean, I agree with you, but on the other hand, there is also, I mean, people have to take responsibility for their own reactions as well, for their own actions, I should say. So, although those people who are carrying him aloft like as if he's some kind of a king think that they're opposing feminism, I mean, if you look at that action on its own, it's pathetic. You know, it's I don't know. It's just not something. Nobody should be held to that level as if they are like so in the grip of fandom, so in the lock of celebrity, so much a follower. It just doesn't. It doesn't to me. I don't know. It just goes against everything I believe in.
You sound so much like Vernaculus right now. He said pretty much nearly the exact same thing. I mean, in his own words, of course.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that Vernaculus has these opinions. I already said that I'm gonna watch some of his content because we had a bit of an exchange on Twitter. He was complaining about his Orwell in inverted commas.
But both of you like George Orwell. I mean, you two actually have quite a bit in common, it seems, except you're on different political spectrums. But you both like George Orwell. You both have similar views on Milo. You two are actually quite similar.
Well, for some reason, he didn't really, well, he didn't express much of an opinion, but he didn't seem to like my video, or he seemed to think that it was worthy of ridicule. So I'm not exactly sure what that was about. I mean, what I'm saying is he had an opportunity to see my content, and I didn't really get that kind of vibe from him. But
Did he leave a comment on your video?
I don't think he left a comment, did he?
I, I would know.
I know he left a comment on Twitter. I mean, there were hundreds of comments left. I mean, I think there were at least 600 comments. So there's a possibility I didn't see it, but I don't think he left a comment.
Mm.
I mean, he could have done a video of his own. Or did he?
He didn't make a video on it. I I think after he watched your video, I think he agreed with you because I think somebody said to him on Twitter, I forgot what the person said, but he basically said what Teal Deer said, that so many people. Actually, I think what Vernacular said is that because so many people are against feminism because it's the crispiest meme at the moment. That's
Yeah.
what Vernacular said. That's what he said.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and going back to Teal Deer, that's one of the reasons I tagged him in. You know, because you mentioned his video about ponage and stuff like that. I didn't actually mention it at the time, and I didn't even try to communicate with Teal Deer apart from just asking him to sort of do on Twitter to be part of the hashtag because I was interested in his input on that level. But I didn't get a response from him. I think I got a response from everyone else apart from JJ. Although I tagged quite a few people in. I don't know what's going on with JJ on that front. I really don't know.
I think JJ's busy. As you know, she has a boyfriend now, and not only does she have a boyfriend now, but she does different charities, and she travels from here to there. Not only that, but she goes to college. There are so many things going on in JJ's life that even I have a difficult time keeping up with what's going on in her life, because it's like 1 minute she's talking about, well, I have exams, and the next is like, oh, I'm traveling here. I mean, JJ, she is a very busy person. I don't know how she has time to breathe.
Yeah, no, I know you're right. It probably would have been a better idea on my part to have challenged Sarge. I suspect he might have actually responded, but and it might have been quite interesting. It might have been. I'm not exactly sure of his opinion, but I know he can be, on certain issues, he can be quite nuanced. So it would have been interesting to get his perspective.
Yeah, possibly. Did were there people who took it seriously, or did he mostly get joke response like, oh yeah, like a sarcastic response? Or were there people who were like, I have seen like two so far. I've seen two people who took it seriously. That would be Agents of Doubt, and then some person on Twitter. I forgot the person's name, but I know that Tyler Preston. I think that's when he retweeted it. But I have seen somebody make a legitimate video like my message to anti-feminists, and this person, I believe it's a woman, and she was talking about that the Muslims are a problem, at least in Europe. She's like,
Yes, no, I saw that video. That kind of puzzled me. I mean, I thought that it was kind of like good to begin with, and then it seemed like she wanted to talk about Muslims rather than anti-feminists, which isn't the same topic. Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to respond in their own way, but it just seemed a bit odd that she kind of jumped over to the Islam problem.
no, her response is basically addressing like the anti-feminist TJ or the amazing atheist. I think that TJ and Krauts got into it a bit, just a little bit, and TJ was kind of a lot like, we shouldn't give the radicals what they want, and Krauts, he was like, well, here is the problem. And I think that her message was kind of like to TJ, like, anti-feminists should understand that's in Europe, like anti-feminists in America should understand that Muslims are a problem in Europe.
Right, yeah, yeah. No, I can see what you mean, and I remember that now that you said that it was kind of more like a message to TJ, and well, that part was, which I suppose is fair enough. I mean, I always find it odd, as we were talking about before, when you see TJ being criticized for not being, I don't know, anti-feminist enough or anti-Islam enough. I mean, I don't know.
sorry, but TJ or the Amazing Atheist, he was like bombarded with messages calling him a social justice warriors. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like TJ, he got like he was getting bombarded, and he responded to them all. They're like, "You're a social justice warrior now, TJ. You've been sipping on the social justice warrior Kool-Aid. Oh, you're one of them now." They all just started bombarding, you know, TJ with the message that he's now a social justice warrior. And the weird part is they did the same thing to Russian. It's like, now Mr. Russian's gonna, oh, you're a social justice warrior now, Mr. Russian. I thought you were one of us, but now, Mr. Russian, you're a social justice warrior. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And this was from, I don't watch him, so, but this was from a video that he did recently, right? That made everyone think that he was an SJW, right?
It was because he said to CrowdNT that it's terrorism that's a problem, I think, and he says that there are good Muslims in the United States, and we shouldn't give terrorists terror. I think that's what he said.
Right. So basically, he had, I don't know, I'm just interpreting, but he kind of had a more nuanced position, and because it wasn't a radical enough position, people lost their minds. Right?
It was like,
what I'm getting from you anyway.
It was really funny, like, because it's kind of like TJ, he's been speaking out against feminism, against the social justice warriorism, long, like before anybody else has. He was probably the very first person on YouTube to talk against feminism, long before Sargon, long before Tildeer, long before Vernaculus.
Yeah, he wrote the book on it, didn't he?
And that's the one that everybody wants to scream, "You're a social justice warrior."
I think people are getting their terms a little bit mixed up. You see, they could probably get away with calling him a member of the regressive left. If they were smart enough, they would actually use that as an insult against him, because that actually refers to the Islamic side of things. But calling him an SJW leaves them very open to that counter-argument which you just made. I mean, it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, because he was one of the very first people to speak out against feminism, and one of the very first people, like long before Sargon, long before all these, relatively new accounts. He's like the very first one to talk about it, and his opinions, they're just more nuanced. Like, he's just trying to see, different perspective, but that's the one that they're going to call a social justice warrior, even though he's been doing this longer than anybody else.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. People aren't radical enough. You need to be more radical. It's not like what I was saying in my video. Anti-feminists need to be more radical. And TJ is an SJW, and not all non-feminists are SJWs, and all SJWs are SJWs, and only if you're a radical anti-feminist are you okay.
To me, it just in the end, it hurts the anti-feminist movements, because one of the biggest complaints that the anti-feminist has is that that a feminist will call them a racist, a sexist, or a misogynist, and dismiss them and block them, not have anything to do with them. And it's kind of like, then they're going to turn around and call the Amazing Atheist an SJW. And then they were like saying things like, "I wouldn't even go to the drunken peasants. I wouldn't even go." It's kind of like, well, when a feminist calls you a racist, sexist, misogynist, and dismisses you and refuses to communicate, it's a new video. Like, Steve Shives is like that, and he gets lots of complaints for calling the anti-feminist community sexist, and blocks them, refuses to have anything to do with them. But then they're gonna call the Amazing Atheist and SJW, and they're like, I'm not going to have anything to do with him, and I'm just going to, even if I was allowed to go to Drunken Peasants podcast, I wouldn't go, and I wouldn't even support the show. I wouldn't even look. It's kind of like, well, then aren't you mirroring Steve Shive's behavior? I mean, it's kind of like, even though it's kind of the opposite, but it's an application, call somebody blank and then avoided them forever. Still in practice, it's still the same thing that they're complaining about.
When it comes to stuff like that, I've often heard that SJWs are the worst, SJWs in inverted commas, or whatever you want to call them, are the worst when it comes to, closing conversations down, to circle jerks, to blocking people and all the rest of it. But, I've actually experienced quite a bit of blocking myself when I'm expressing my opinions, and I'm not abusive. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but I generally don't get very abusive. I can be quite ardent when I'm arguing, but I'm usually quite civil. But I've been blocked before, and not by SJWs. Even though I've had disagreements with, I've had 1 or 2 disagreements with feminists on Twitter. But the people that I've been blocked on YouTube and on Twitter by have invariably been anti-SJWs.
Yeah, it does since surprise me. It's kind of a lot like this. That would happen when people look into the abyss. To reference Friedrich Nietzsche, I think he says, "Be careful those who fight monsters, that you yourself do not become the monster. For the longer you look into the abyss begins to look back at you."
Yeah, it's a nice quote.
Yeah, I probably didn't get it just right.
No, yeah, but you're right. I remember the quote you're talking about. Yeah, very true.
Yes, it's kind of like they've been fighting it for such a long time. And then it's kind of a lot like, they've been staring into the abyss, and now it's looking right back at them because they complain that Steve Shives calls them like a sexist or a racist, and then has nothing to do with them, won't even talk, won't even communicate. Then they're going to call the Amazing Atheist a social justice warrior, and then not have anything to do with him, not have anything to do with the Drunken Peasants. Wouldn't even go on even if they were invited. He should just be like, I don't know, exiled. He should just be exiled, at least in their minds.
Of course, if you look at it from a perspective of, well, if you're quite kind of cynical about it, and if you understand the way groups operate, if everyone on the SJW side, if you want to call it that, was to close off their comments and to completely retreat into their cubbyholes, or whatever you want to call them, the only thing left for the anti-feminists would be to tear each other to shreds. There would be the only thing left. The energy would have to go somewhere. So you could make a cynical argument, and I've never actually heard this argument before, I'm just putting this out there, that when you have a certain negativity about something, and you have a large group, and if there isn't a common uniting factor among the group that you can actually attack or get any response from, invariably the group will attack each other.
Oh, CEH Beach said, did you already discuss SJW's covering of people like Laughing Witch when they were going after Thunder Boner? Who's Thunder Boner?
Well, speaking of boners, I think Beach has got a little bit of a hate boner for me, but I'm reliably informed that he's not actually such a bad chap. But he's actually referring to, are you aware of the Laughing Witch controversy, to call it that, from some months ago, from maybe November last year?
Didn't Laughing Witch dox somebody?
No, she wrote to she and somebody else, and this isn't 100%. This is from memory, and you know I wasn't part of this. But she and somebody else, perhaps Bewildered Ape, wrote to the employer of Thunderfoot to tell them of his online activities, i.e., his anti-feminism activism.
Uh,
I think that was what it was about, and nothing happened. I believe nothing happened. His employer didn't say anything to him about it, and some months passed. I think this happened, say, in February last year when the letter was sent. Some months passed. Then in November, Thunderfoot brought a video out to say what had happened, and he doxed Laughing Witch's business address, or business details. I don't know if it was the address, but business details in one of his videos. And as a result, she had like hate coming from all directions. You know, when you have these things on Facebook, you have on Google and so on, when you're judging someone's businesses. So she had like hundreds of false reviews from Thunderfoot's fans and other people and trolls because they decided to join the Laughing Witch hate party. And they were all sort of trolling and leaving negative reviews and so on. And this affected Laughing Witch's business. And this went on for months. This wasn't something that just, you know, went on for a week or two or something. This went on for months, and I don't know, perhaps there is still something going on. There are still negative reviews being left. I think I've seen the reviews myself on Facebook. It's not something that is just made up, and there were many of them. And yeah, so she put out a video to apologize to Thunderfoot, hoping that he would back down or that he would tell people to stop trolling her, basically. So I put that video on my channel, and one or two other people put that video on their channels, but Thunderfoot wasn't interested. And so basically the attacks continued. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to add. I mean, if Beach is saying her business is already in trouble, yeah, true enough. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. I mean, for sure, what Thunderfoot did didn't make her business any better. I mean, it for sure made things worse. So yeah, that's what happened. I don't really, I don't see that there's any reason to feel for me to feel ashamed of that at all. You know?
yeah, I see what you're saying, but I mean, for me, I don't follow either of them. I didn't witness it happening. I don't follow Thunderfoots or Laughing Witch, but it seemed like, I mean, she had tried to get him fired. So it seems like she got her karma for trying to get him fired for his job.
Well, you know, there's this thing that I believe in, and I know this is not so popular in the US, because what tends to happen in the US is overreaction. When someone causes one reaction, then someone else takes it up a level. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that kind of happens a lot, and it's kind of unfortunate from my perspective. The way I see it is that when someone visits harm against you, you should do as much harm against them, or you should let it go. You should not ratchet it up a level. That's the way I go about things. I mean, you know, call it a sense of fair play or whatever. I don't think that her writing a letter to his employer is the same, especially if nothing happened at all as a result of that, as her being targeted for months. I mean, and stuff was happening in real life as well. I mean, I think there were phone calls being made to her. I mean, it sounds banal now, but there were pizzas being ordered to her address, which, you know, we can snigger and laugh about. But this kind of thing that was going on every week for her. So, and there were times when she actually thought she was being followed. I don't know if she really was followed or not, but she was scared for her safety. You know, this is above and beyond the crime that she committed. I think that when you do something wrong, you should pay for that to the level of the wrong that you committed. You should not be destroyed as a result of that. Do you see where I'm coming from?
I see what you're coming from, but it would have been better if she didn't try to get him fired in the first place. Because let me just say this: what if she was equally as popular as Thunderfoot? If she was equally as popular as Thunderfoot and could have successfully gotten him fired and put him in a position where he's followed. I mean, if you're going to call to get somebody fired, I don't think that you would care if, I don't think you care if they got followed or not, or phone calls or not, or, piece of things sent to their house or not. Because if she's going to try to get him fired, then she doesn't sound like a good person at all. She sounds like a bad person.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that she said in her letter that, I mean, or that she ever said that she was trying to get him fired, although you can infer that from the letter. I mean, you can say, well, why else would she send the letter? But I don't know. I mean, there's also another argument. This is an argument that Agent of Doubt made, that it's actually legitimate for her to have sent a letter, but it's also legitimate for the employers of Thunderfoot just to dismiss that. That, if we just look at this in an adult kind of way, this shouldn't be like such a huge problem, and the overreaction against Laughing Witch shouldn't have been there. Someone else told me some months ago on the internet, and these are people who are, with the Chan kind of culture thing. What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. On the internet. To that I say bullshit. What you say on the internet actually matters. It affects people. If you say, let's just say you say something really terrible about black people online, right? And your boss sees that. You think he's going to say, oh, well, that was just something you said on the internet. And let's say, your boss is black, or you're working with a lot of black employees. The real world and the internet are deeply interconnected. It isn't what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It doesn't. The world doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, because if he has other black people there and you say bad things, I mean, especially in customer service, he needs more business, and a guy cannot lose business because of you. If he's going to lose business because of you, he would rather fire you than to lose business.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting sort of journey for me, because it put me, well, I wasn't really at the center of a storm, but I got a chance to kind of see sort of from the inside what was going on, and I hadn't seen anything like that before, as far as, if you want to call it online activism. I don't know if you can call trolling activism, but yeah, to see the real life consequences of the way that people are behaving online was, a bit of an eye-opener for me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. CEH Beach is still referencing you, I think. He says, like, it's water under the bridge, but I wanted to ask the question to see how you looked at it in retrospect. That's like saying an arsonist failing to burn down your business means it's okay. Uh, I'll let you go, but you're being partisan. But as I said, water under the bridge. I think most everyone learned the lesson that fights on the internet should stay in the ring. There's a difference between your boss finding the comments and a group purposely trying to get you fired. The group is bringing the attention to it and causing the problem in the first place. Actually, trolling can be, if you remember, chanology. Uh, I don't know if you want to respond to
Yeah,
a CEH Beach or not, but if you want to respond, you can.
I think at this point always reminds me so much of Sam Harris, and the point is to talk about intentions, and the idea is if you intend to do something, it's as bad or almost as bad as actually doing that thing or not doing it because you intended to do it. I think there is something in that argument, but I don't think that that's the whole story at all. I think that the end result or the the action as a result of the intention is more important than the intent. For example, if I intend to harm you and I don't succeed, or I even plan to harm you and then I don't succeed, or if I forget about it afterwards, nothing ever happened to you. It was bad that I had those intentions, but nothing happened to you, and you know, none of us were the wiser, and we just go on our happy way. But say you had found out, and then you decided to, I don't know, burn my house down as a result. Yeah, it was wrong for me to want to harm you in the first place, but I'm sorry, it was wrong for you to burn my house down. I didn't actually lay a finger on you. Do you know what I mean?
C E
I
H.
mean, unless we're going to go down the route of thought crime, you know, which is the whole sort of Orwellian idea. Sorry to use that word, Beach. I know he spoke about Orwellian a while ago, how everyone uses it. But the idea of thinking something or intending something being more important than actually doing something, which is kind of thought crime. We're going to punish people for their intentions rather than what they actually do.
C.E.H. Beach said, by that logic, we need to release everyone who was convicted of attempted murder, robbery, etc.
No, no, we don't. No, obviously, I disagree with that.
Well, I see where he's coming from. Laughing Witch actually sent a letter to his boss to try to get him fired. She failed, but she still tried to get him fired. And she actually went through with sending a letter to his boss. She didn't think about it. She didn't write the letter, then ripped it up. She actually sent it to his boss, and what she did was terrible. And in my opinion, she got her karma, you know.
Right. So you think that what she did was in proportion to what she received was in proportion to what she did?
Um, the outcome was different, but again, if let's just say that they both had an equal amounts of subscribers, if they had an equal,
But they don't. They don't. Let's talk about the situation as it is.
then her intent was horrible. She had a terrible intent, and
I know, but I just gave you that example about my intentions towards you, and if you were to react and to do something bad towards me, or change it around, you know, you felt that way really badly towards me, or you really want to hurt me, but you didn't, and then one day I burned your house down because I found out about it. I would have been completely wrong. There would be no way you could justify that in the context that because you intended to hurt me, but you never actually did anything, that you deserve what you got.
to me, a better example would be if I had a knife and I ran to you with a knife, but I didn't stab you, you dodged it and I missed it, I would still get thrown in jail. I would still get arrested for attempted murder, you know.
Hmm.
I would still face consequences, and I don't have to think it's fair or not. It still doesn't change the fact that I ran at you with a knife in my hand, even if you dodged it and
Okay.
I
Yeah.
totally missed you. I would still get thrown in jail for attempted murder, even if I was not successful.
No, you're right. But actually, you just sort of shown me that both of our examples are not very good. We should probably just stick with what happened. Because the crime that she did was to send a letter. It wasn't actually to threaten a person, like my example, or it wasn't to stab somebody.
Yeah, that's just where I'm coming from.
I don't know, and I think that that's something that Agent of Doubt said, that, for example, if you were an employer and there was a possibility that one of your employees was doing something that could conflict with their workplace, wouldn't you want to know?
Oh, CH Beach is still talking, laughing, which didn't just think about it. She took purposeful action. But whatever, actually, I wouldn't mind having a conversation with SJW some about something other than this subject.
Yeah, no, that's good with me. As I said, I heard that Beach is actually an all right guy, but I've had a few sort of negative interactions with him online. But, you know, bad things kind of come and go, and people get involved in the heat of the moment, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I
Uh,
mean, obviously, we have some disagreements, but yeah, we could discuss other things for sure.
Yeah, I do take questions from chats. I mean, as long as it's asked in a civilized manner, as long as it's not "fuck you, nigga," but as long as she asks civilized, I do take questions, or I did take questions from the chat. So I mean, while he's here, if you guys want to ask him any questions, if you want to communicate with him, just um, have questions on chats, and I will pluck them out. Even though chats is pretty dead right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Um, I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? No, not from Mountain Confessor. Yeah. I guess he just started watching though. I haven't seen him talking for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I guess if that's it, then I will probably go on my merry way. I think less is more in life. So I don't want to sort of like drone on for too long because I don't know. There are not enough hours in the day and people are kind of busy. Well, a lot of people. So I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about people that watch these videos. They don't have enough time to watch long videos, I think, a lot of the time. So I try to make my videos shorter.
Yeah, but I am considering breaking it down to smaller parts. Like I was thinking of eventually breaking it down into like 15 to 20 minutes intervals so that people could easily watch the whole thing, and I'll have more content. Yay! Yeah.
Cool.
Is there, why do you, I ask this to everybody, why do you make YouTube videos?
Oh dear. I've noticed that you sometimes ask these kind of questions, which are which kind of make my head go blank. Um, why do I make these YouTube videos? I don't know. I guess it's to talk about issues that I think are important, you know. And I think there are a definite absence of people with views such as mine on YouTube. So I tend to look at this platform kind of in isolation. I mean, here and Twitter as its own kind of like universe. And a lot of the people here have very similar viewpoints on a lot of different subjects. And I don't subscribe to that, you know. And I just feel like I need to actually contribute.
Is there anything you wish your audience knew about you?
Um, yeah, I frequently think that I must come across as being a pompous, humorless piece of shit, but but I'm not actually like that, which is kind of amusing. It's I suppose it's a little bit to do with my persona. I mean, I don't really have a persona as such, but um, I do come across as being quite arrogant, And obviously part of that is because of the accent and, you know, what with me being English. And if you're listening with American ears, then it will kind of come across that way more. But I don't know. I don't know. Love me or hate me. Take me which way you want.
Do you wish people were more interested in politics?
Um, yes, I think I do. Um, do I? But I wish they understood more about politics. You know, I think the problem is that when you know a little about something, um, it's very easy to have a very thinly spread view on a lot of issues. Um, and I think it's a particular problem on YouTube where people are very one-sided in their approach, and that kind of irks me, you know. Even though I'm biased, obviously, and I more often than not I'm putting forward my own sort of position. I actually like to try to balance it. I actually like to mention something from the other side of the argument. I like to. It sounds, again, with the English accent, it sounds probably like I'm looking down on people, but I like to chuck a bone, is what I'm saying. I like to show that I can understand where other people who don't agree with me are coming from, because I do understand them. Um, but on YouTube, things are very polarized, you know?
What issues are important to you?
Um, okay, let's make this the last one. What issues are important to me? I think what's important to me is that inequality is important to me. And I'm not just talking about inequality to do with, you know, gender, race, anything like that. I'm talking about financial inequality. I'm talking about global inequality. You know, I really don't like that there are so many poorer countries around the world that are so whose citizens are so poverty, who are living in poverty, and so much poverty. Sorry, I can't spit the words out. And the way that our Western countries that we're fortunate enough to live in actually monopolize all the resources, I think that is desperately unfair. And I wish that part of the discourse on YouTube among anti-feminists, atheists, or whoever you want to talk about, would actually think about, you know, think outside their own bubbles and just to consider other issues apart from the issues that they always talk about. You know, I mean, I'm not calling for some kind of atheism plus or whatever that was called. You know, that failed attempt to introduce feminism allegedly into atheism. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about how people should actually consider things from outside of their own experience and from outside their own Twitter feed or from outside their own YouTube subs. You know, the world doesn't revolve around feminism, atheism, and, you know, and things that we see in the first world. There are so many other things out there. You know, there are so many other people out there. Yeah. Anywho, that's the end of my speech.
I would respect your wishes and allow that to be the last questions. And I want to thank everybody who watched, and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.